Everyone, welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. Happy Christmas Eve. So today, I wanted to do something special for you guys. I want to showcase another another person, a well-known person, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, and do a reaction video live with you guys in terms of what he just said about Bitcoin. The thing is, just like some of the other videos I've been posting, I believe Kevin O'Leary is lying. And not only do I think it's lying, I think he actually has Bitcoin. Not just a small amount he says he has. I actually think he has a lot of Bitcoin. And after doing the reaction video, I want to show you guys a couple of follow-up videos that kind of proves my point. Right now, there's not a lot of Bitcoin bears out there anymore because there's really nothing left to say. There's really nothing you can say. But I thought this would be a good one for you guys for today on Christmas Eve. I know a lot of you guys are off today. You're with your family, possibly just relaxing. So today's going to be a lighter casual day. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Those of you guys that are new to the channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. For the rest of you guys, hit the like button and make sure you follow me on Twitter and Facebook as well. All right, so let's get started, and then let's do some Q&A afterwards. I had to put on my headset, make sure that this works, because previous times there's been a couple mic or sound issues. All right, so let me pull this up for you guys. Let's watch this together and make sure that there's no audio issues. All right, here we go. So this first clip, this is a smaller clip versus the entire segment, but Anthony Papiano was brought on, and same thing with Kevin O'Leary. So Anthony's go do his thing, talk for a few minutes on why Bitcoin is the future, and of course Kevin again plays the bear and he gives his doomsday outlook for Bitcoin. So let's look at it together, and I'll stop within the middle and react.
In a year like we've had, that Bitcoin and other, safe haven assets, if you will, would have done well. But what happens if you get into, you get into 2021? Everybody gets vaccinated, or enough people, get vaccinated, and we get back to some semblance of normalcy, and it's more of a risk-on environment, and assets like Bitcoin fall out of favor as a result. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I'm going to pause it right now because I want to explain something. So the host is asking Anthony Papiano because right before this segment, right before this clip, there was like a larger segment, right? And Anthony Papiano was basically saying it doesn't matter if what I'm saying is right or what Kevin is saying is right. Ultimately, you look at this time that we're in a pandemic time when things are supposed to be weak, and which asset went up the most? Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up over 200%, while S&P went up like 15%, while gold went up like 20%. He's like, the market is the referee, right? So whether or not you believe me or Kevin, right, during this downturn, during this economic uncertainty, right, the market is judging that Bitcoin is the winner, which is why it has gone up the most, right? That is why the host is now asking, well, what if COVID is over, pandemic is over, and the market's recovered? Does that still, help Bitcoin, or does the Bitcoin come down? So I just want to give you that little tidbit before we continue.
Yeah, so there's two things to kind of understand about the market structure. There's one, what I call the Bitcoin black hole. So this is Grayscale, this is the Bitwise index. These instruments where basically you can invest in a private placement, they create units or shares, and they go and they buy Bitcoin with the money that comes in that private placement. That Bitcoin cannot come back out. There's no redemption feature of those funds. And so that's not going to go back into the market in kind of what I call the addressable circulating supply. Also, when you have corporations, Square, MicroStrategy, and others, putting it in their treasury on their corporate balance sheets, that's not coming back out into the market. And so what you continue to do is people are basically taking Bitcoin off the market. And so you don't need tons and tons of new interest. But I actually think that we're underestimating the psychological shift that investors have gone through. The U.S. government just ran an almost $4 trillion marketing campaign for the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. And investors are listening, they're paying attention, and they're choosing to move their capital into an area where they can protect their wealth. And Bitcoin serves not only a store of value, perspective, but also an asymmetric type potential return. And I think that we just haven't had an asset like that. And as people wake up and understand it, you're going to continue to see more and more capital flow into this asset in the coming years.
You know, Kevin, it doesn't sound like your buddy from Shark Tank, Mark Cuban, thinks it's a nothing.
Okay, so I just want to pause right there. So Papaano brought up a few things that's quite interesting. He brings up this Bitcoin black hole, right? How Grayscale and Bitwise, their funds, once they get Bitcoin, they buy Bitcoin and it stays in there. There's no redemption out, right? So it's not like futures or anything else where people could actually redeem it out. It kind of just stays put in there. So that's an interesting way. I haven't heard anyone else talk about that, right? To think about it. So literally, once Bitcoin goes in, right, it just stays in there. So that's quite interesting. Everything else I think you guys know about, right? Non-symmetrical asset, which is what Anthony Papaano likes to say. But basically, he's saying that Bitcoin is non-correlating with the market. Okay, it's not correlated to the Dow, S&P. It's not correlated to anything else. It's its own asset that can stand on its own legs, and it has proven itself, right, during this harsh time. What I like is, just real quick, I want to mention that, first of all, CNBC knows what they're doing, because you could see that they put up the stocks of PayPal and Square, both that are now into Bitcoin, right? Square, by the way, the stock has been on a monster tear, mostly because of Bitcoin, because their last two their quarterly revenues, their last two quarterlies, I should say, Bitcoin revenue was through the roof, like 10x more year over year, and PayPal just got in. So CNBC definitely knows what they're doing. And then also look at this, right? They put BTC versus Tesla in terms of the two assets that have grown the most in 2020. BTC has some catching up to do, but I do feel like this will start going up and catching up really fast. All right, so I just want to talk about that real quick. Now let's look at Kevin O'Leary and what he has to say about Bitcoin. So this is where it gets fun.
For special merchandise discounts for Bitcoin buyers, for special merchandise to prepare for this and irrelevant. I just saw a story last night when I was reading up to prepare for this segment. Headline, Dallas Mavericks offer special merchandise discounts for Bitcoin buyers. So, I mean, that's another arena, pardon the pun, where you could see legitimacy to Bitcoin from people like Mark Cuban, your buddy, who are trying to make this a more relevant part of people's lives.
You know, I know Mark quite well. He also was quoted saying he thinks bananas are a bigger common currency, and he's probably right. I want to go to Pomp's issue about this idea that you're protecting your capital buying Bitcoin. There is no evidence that it has a reverse correlation to correcting markets. Last March, if you owned Bitcoin, you got slaughtered, and you had a lot more volatility than the S&P. My whole point is there's a lot of...
Okay, let's stop right there. So Kevin does have a point there. In March, we saw a tremendous dump of Bitcoin, right? I never thought that Bitcoin would go below 4,000, go to 3,000. So he has a point there. But most of what we're seeing now with the institution adoption has come afterwards. In fact, within the last 3 to 4 months, right? That is when everything started avalanching and snowballing. And that includes PayPal getting in. That includes a lot of these big guys like Paul Tudor Jones, Bill Miller, Stan Druckenmiller, and all these guys coming in. Same thing with BlackRock, MassMutual, Fidelity, right? Jeffries, all these players are coming in because since that bottom for 2020, Bitcoin has just gone up through the roof, right? And it has shown that it can withstand pretty much anything, even with uncertainty, with a lot of doubt, with a lot of fear, right? The market, it wasn't just Bitcoin. Dow, remember, during March days, fell down 3,000 points, 2,000 points, like literally every day, right? So it wasn't just Bitcoin. But what has recovered the fastest and what still has the most gains for 2020 well, that's Bitcoin, right? So he does have a point, but I think that's where within the last 3 or 4 months, that's when we've seen like this change, like this shift, right?
Interesting ideas here. And certainly the fact that a Bitcoin, all the other ones haven't worked, but Bitcoin has. This concept of a digital currency is one that would work. And my whole point is, for all of us, including you, Scott, who monitor and work within the financial services multi-trillion-dollar global industry, is this a nothing burger? It's not even a single cell amoeba. If you took all of the market cap of Bitcoin, totally irrelevant. I love to talk about it.
You know, Kevin is trying to make that into a negative thing, but that's a really, really good thing. So he's talking about the trillions of dollars out there, and Bitcoin market cap being like 450 billion. It's nothing, right? He says it's nothing. So that's actually a positive thing, because imagine as more and more of the trillions out there that flows into Bitcoin, that means there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of growth left for Bitcoin, right? And here's the other thing that Kevin tries to make this a bad thing, but think about it. 450 billion in terms of overall market cap. Even though Bitcoin's not a company, I know it's a project. It's an open source project. It's worth $450 billion. You know, that's already the 12th biggest market cap project out there, right? So if you look at all the top companies out there, the richest ones, going from like Apple and Microsoft and Google and all these guys, you can go down the list. Bitcoin is already at number 12. So even though, yes, when you compare Bitcoin's 450 billion to the grand scheme of things, all the money out there in the world, but it's already bigger than the biggest bank out there, JP Morgan, which is very relevant. It's about to be bigger than Visa, the biggest payment processor out there. That they are very relevant, right? So I just don't agree with what he's saying.
You know, it's fun to watch it go up and down, but during the day when the bell rings, I don't talk to anybody that's worried about this. They do not put capital to work in Bitcoin. Maybe it's fun if you're an individual high net worth person that wants to just play with it, but the financial markets deal with regulators, and you can.
Okay, that's a complete lie. First of all, I don't know how many financial people he talks to, but the fact that Mass Mutual went in, the fact that Guggenheim said that they are trying to get in and they can't, the fact that Jefferies Investment said they're getting in, and all these other hedge funds that have recently said they're getting in. So I think that's a complete lie. I think maybe from his perspective, because he hasn't talked to anyone that actually told him that, but just look at the headlines, and these headlines are not fake. These are from some of the biggest institutions out there.
Can only operate within the confines of those rules. And so when we glorify something like this, it really has nothing to do with the financial markets that make the whole world work. And no institutional or sovereign fund investor I've ever talked to has said to me, go index all of the cryptocurrencies for me. And the reason they don't want to own that is they fear the regulator. Yeah. And watch what happens one day, and I'm waiting for this one. I'm waiting for the day that one of these regulators comes down hard on Bitcoin. Grown men are going to weep when that happens. Well, you'll never see a loss of capital like that ever in your life.
Yeah.
But why? Why would you want to see that? Only people who missed out on the gravy train would say that. Like, oh, just wait until a regulator just basically shuts it down, and then all of you guys are gonna lose your money. That just sounds like he's really, really sour, right? Like he missed the boat. But we already know the SEC already declared Bitcoin as a non-security. They declared also Ethereum as a non-security. So it's not going to be the SEC that's coming down. CFTC has traditionally been pretty pro on Bitcoin, which is why they already released the Bitcoin futures. So I don't know what other regulator, right? Maybe Mnuchin with his KYC requirement on self-hosted wallets, maybe. But still, that's not the end of the world, right? So I don't know what other regulator he's talking about that could do this. But anyways, I think just throwing it in there because there's nothing else to say. But yeah.
It'll be brutal.
Okay,
and I'm just saying you got to get ready for it.
To that point.
Listen, I'm ready to risk the rest of the. I got $52 here. I could lose it all. And I don't know where 1-800, operators are standing by to explain what happened.
Yeah.
It's not going to. This is just ether. That's all it is.
It's $53 worth of Bitcoin. I guarantee you he has way more than $53 worth of Bitcoin. So as you saw in that clip, this is a smaller clip from a much longer segment, right? Kevin O'Leary is still trying to play the bad guy. I do believe that's why they brought him on, because CNBC knows you need to have a villain, right? And Kevin O'Leary, he plays the villain. Now, let me show you, because I labeled this video that he is lying. Kevin O'Leary is lying on CNBC again. So there's a couple clips I want to show you guys. Number one is, I think a lot of you guys missed this, and I caught this recently. Kevin O'Leary did go on Anthony Pompliano's podcast recently. It was December 1st, so beginning of the month, about 2 weeks ago. Now, most people caught when he was talking about Bitcoin, and he was talking about how he would go and put 5% of his net worth into Bitcoin if Bitcoin ETF was released, right? I think most people caught that. But at the end, just listen to what he's saying, right? Basically, in this, he's a lot more relaxed. He's a lot more real. He doesn't have to play this big Bitcoin bear, right? And just listen to what he said. Basically, he's saying that he can't counter what Anthony Pompliano is saying.
Take 1%, put it in Bitcoin. You'll be very happy, my friend.
I can't argue with you, but I gave you a lot of reasons that you got to think it through a little bit. And I think some of those, if we had a debate, I mean, I am not against Bitcoin. I'm not against it. But, when you're talking about putting millions of dollars to work, you really want to understand that you can think long term about it. And I have a feeling there'll be other alternative ideas. Maybe I should put some to work. Maybe you've convinced me. It's a major benefit of our time together today. Maybe I'll put a little bit more in just for the heck of it. I have a little bit just so I can watch the price. But, it bothers me when I can't get the regulator on board. There would be so much interest in Bitcoin.
You ready for
if
this?
It was just,
I'm going to blow your mind.
Okay, so before I continue, you can see basically, I like Kevin like this a lot better. I've seen clips of him where he's not, playing this ultra hard guy on Shark Tank or on CNBC. But usually with these kind of podcasts, he's a lot more loose, right? Basically, he's like, I can't argue against you, Anthony. You're right. So I think I'm not against Bitcoin. So I think I'm just going to buy a little bit more Bitcoin, right? Which is why I said I guarantee he owns a lot more Bitcoins than that $53 or $58 he's saying. But he brings back this regulatory issue, regulators, if they come down on Bitcoin or whatever. So Anthony has a good response to that.
Mind right now. 2 years ago, myself and my partners, we raised money from U.S. public pensions and bought Bitcoin with it. So U.S. public pensions are doing it. Fidelity, they've got a whole business doing it. PayPal, they got the regulators to approve it. The OCC, they came out. They said that banks, you can custody this, right? I agree with you that the SEC...
I know, I'm aware of that. But if you actually look at the percentage of their assets invested in Bitcoin, it is so small that it doesn't even show up in an other category. It's 0.0000. But believe me, I know what institutions are doing. That's my whole job. Watching institutional funds, sovereign pension plans.
Just buy 1%. Just 1%.
Yeah, no, it's true. But even the sovereign guys aren't there yet. I mean, when Bitcoin becomes a sovereign pension plan asset, I'll know about it before you.
See, this is a friendly conversation. This is what I like to hear. But I mean, Kevin didn't really have any response to what Anthony Pompliano said. I mean, for PayPal to be able to offer crypto trading, Bitcoin trading, that requires them to get approval, right? And same thing with Square, same thing with anyone that's getting in. So again, I get what Kevin's saying about maybe there's some kind of laws that gets implemented in the future, but we know that Bitcoin has been around for a long time, and all these regulators have looked at it. We know a lot of Congress people now are very pro-Bitcoin, right? What Mnuchin's trying to do, they're trying to stop, right? So there's a lot of things going for Bitcoin right now. So I just don't see this regulatory thing that Kevin talks about that will basically shut Bitcoin down. Just don't see it. Just don't see it. All right. So as you saw that clip from this very, very long podcast, Kevin is not opposed, right? He's not opposed. He's just a little bit concerned, but it sounds like he might be putting that 1% of his net worth into Bitcoin. Lastly, I want to show you the most condemning clip, this most damning clip that proves that Kevin knows about Bitcoin. He knew about it a long time ago, right? So this has been circulating for a little bit. I don't know if I don't know what the basis of this is, like whether or not he was paid to come on or he actually just owns a lot and he just, trying to fake us out. I don't know, but you could hear it clearly that he knows about Bitcoin. He knows about the future. He knows everything about Bitcoin, right? And he's very, very pro Bitcoin. In fact, this clip in 2013, he was brought on to be a Bitcoin bull, not a bear, as a bull. And he makes a good case.
There's like huge rise from $20 way up into the hundreds and then a precipitous fall yesterday.
Well, let's remember that until yesterday, most people around the world never heard of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, for those who don't know it, is basically virtual currency, the same that you'd get for blasting aliens in a video game, except now traded globally. You can buy Bitcoins with virtually any currency on Earth and convert back into any currency or buy goods and services with it.
Well, we talked about the story. What really got us talking about Bitcoin was the guy in Edmonton who was selling his house for the first time, wanted 400,000 in Bitcoins.
So I think the best way to look at this is a proxy for the mistrust individuals have of central bankers. If you're willing to take Bitcoin as a currency, a virtual Barbie currency to me, it has no basis, no central banker, no hard asset behind it. But if you don't trust any other currency, this is where you go. So it's essentially what's happening here, Heather. People all around the world are saying, I've had it with my central banker. I don't trust politicians anymore. I'm going to trade with this currency with my computer and my cell phone.
Well, they did that. The reason the Bitcoin shot up was after Cyprus, when they thought the government was going to get their hands on the money in the banks. So people turned to Bitcoins to keep them protected.
So I ignore everything till it gets to $1 billion of market cap.
Okay.
That happened recently with Bitcoin, well over $1 billion in value. So it's here to stay. When you've accumulated a virtual worth of $1 billion and people are willing to trade it and actually buy things with it, turn it back into hard assets, and here's the key, Heather, owners of hard assets are willing to take Bitcoin. This is here to stay.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. So Kevin, as you just heard, he knows what Bitcoin is all about. He knows why people are buying it, because of distrust in central banks and governments and politicians, right? And he also recognized once an asset reaches $1 billion, it's here to stay. And now today, fast forward from 2013 to 2020, in 7 years, it's gone from $1 billion, I don't know if it's exactly $1 billion, to $450 billion. So the fact on CNBC, when he tried to downplay, saying, oh, it's so tiny on the grand scheme of things. I mean, in 2013, he was saying it wasn't already. You have to pay attention to this and how it's not going to go away. And I just mentioned how $450 billion is already worth more than the biggest bank out there on Earth, and about to be bigger than Visa, too, and is about to break into like the top 10 list of market cap of companies. So, I mean, obviously, Kevin knows about Bitcoin. He does. So imagine if he just picked up a tiny amount in 2013, his net worth now would be multi-billion dollars, because he's talking about Bitcoin when it was right around 1,000, possibly even lower when things were coming down, right? So imagine that. Imagine how much Bitcoin he could have bought back then for just a small amount, and it would be worth billions now. And I do believe he did pick up more than what he's letting on.
That's what's going to happen, and no central banker can control it.
But you just called it a Barbie currency. I was going to say, is it all hocus pocus? I mean, is it a legitimate form of currency to trade?
It is, and as soon as it passed $1 billion and someone bought a hard asset with it, in my books, as an investor, it became real. Now, at the same time, because relative to all other currencies, it's tiny. $1 billion is irrelevant in the currency market. Remember, the currency markets are the largest markets on Earth, bigger than commodities, bigger than stocks, bigger than bonds. It's going to grow, but it's going to take a long time. But the key is volatility. Nobody's going to put a large part of their net worth into this thing, because it can go up and down 60% in a day, as we saw yesterday. But is it here to stay? Oh, yeah. So will I take 2 or 3% in Bitcoins? I think I might. I'm going to start looking at it.
Are you really?
Did you hear that? 2 or 3% into Bitcoins. So this 1% notion, what Anthony was saying, right? No, he just admitted that he's going to take 2 to 3% of his net worth and put it into Bitcoin. And had he done that, maybe he did, that would be worth multi-billion dollars today. So maybe that did happen, right? Maybe that did happen. We don't know. We don't know. Okay, I'm going to end it with that. I mean, I think that proves my point, right? So today's segment is no different than any other segment that Kevin has been, basically today's segment is just like all the other segments within the last few years where he's come on and just acted as a big Bitcoin bear, right? And I think he's really lying about how much Bitcoin he has. He truly understands Bitcoin. He admitted so. I mean, in that clip I just showed you guys, he knows about Bitcoin. He knows why it exists, why people are invested in it. And he basically admitted that it's here to stay. It's worth paying attention to now that's over $1 billion. And he's going to put 2 or 3% of his net asset into it. And even with this one, with Anthony Pompliano, he's like, I can't argue with you. You're right. I'm not against Bitcoin. So I think overall he's just lying through his teeth when he's on CNBC because he's told basically we're bringing you on as a counter argument to the pro Bitcoin stance, right? Like they have to bring on someone that has to be negative about Bitcoin because they're trying to look, I guess they're trying to, stay neutral, I guess, right? All right, guys. That is it. Let's do some quick Q&A. I know I showed you guys a lot of videos today, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that because it is Christmas Eve. So oh, there's a lot of people asking about XRP. The XRP army isn't as strong as it used to be. Before, I would get a lot of people coming in saying, yeah, go buy XRP right now. But now people are wondering, where is XRP going? How low can it go? Well, that's no good. I mean, you don't want to see that ever happen. That's falling off a cliff right there. Basically, they're down to the same point before this pump. So they're pretty much back down to their like 3-year low point almost. But anyways, so right now, my honest opinion, because I created a video about this, my honest opinion is this. XRP, Ripple will get through it, okay? What's going to happen 3 years, 4 years from now, you're going to see that Ripple settled this with SEC. That is going to happen and they're going to get fined. Maybe $25-50 million. It's going to be a slap in the wrist for Ripple. Here's the thing I don't know, okay? Because the SEC is also suing Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larsen outside of Ripple. So they're actually suing all three, not just one, not just the company. Because Chris Larsen and Brad Garlinghouse sold $600 million worth of XRP undisclosed. So as you can see, they have a problem with that. Right? So I don't know what's going to happen. If I had to guess, I would say that Brad steps down as CEO. He might still be with the company. Maybe he gets, they usually give, people who step down as CEO some fancy title, but really he has no power anymore. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, will XRP recover? I do think so, but you have to wait. So, I mean, look at XRP. Since 2017 till basically now, it has not moved and it has been going down and down and down and down and down, right? Until recently, there was a pump, and that's because of two things. Number one, the Flare network. A lot of people were excited about it. They want to get airdrop. And number two, Ripple openly admitted that they were buying XRP for the simple reason of elevating the price. Okay, so that I had a big problem with. So they're basically manipulating the price of XRP. So that's the reason why Ripple went up. And then after it went up, it started coming down. Because after they stopped buying, after people didn't want to buy XRP anymore after the airdrop, it just kind of slowed down. But now this lawsuit basically caused everyone to sell out. Bitwise sold their entire stake in XRP, and many other people have followed. So can I just hover from here? Can I start coming back up? Yes, it can, but I anticipate weakness for a lot longer now. A lot longer. For it to even go back up to 50, 60, 70 cents again, that might take years before that happens. So me personally, I'm staying away from XRP after this lawsuit. This lawsuit is not going to be settled for another 2, 3, 4 years. Will SEC come after Link? Maybe. I mean, for most projects that they go after, right? Like, they went after EOS, they went after Tezos, they went after Kick. I mean, they're okay because they have plenty of money. What ended up happening was a slap in the wrist. EOS paid $24 million from their $4 billion that they raised during the ICO. That's like nothing. Tezos, same thing. They paid $25 million, nothing, right? So even if SEC goes after other big players that had an ICO, nothing will really happen. Just slap in the wrist. But it's different with Ripple because they're not just suing the project. They're suing 2 individual officers of the project too, right? So that's why it's a little bit different. And Ripple didn't just sell all at once. They've been selling over the years, and they have been out for much longer, since 2012. So in Ripple's case, is a little bit different than everyone else that had an ICO during 2017 or 2018. Yeah, in case Low Roller brought me Dave Ramsey to my attention, so thank you, Low Roller. But I did create this. If you guys didn't watch, I have 2 videos that I created recently. One yesterday was about Dave Ramsey. A caller called in. He may have been trolling, may have not been, but he basically told Dave he made $100,000 of Bitcoin after only putting $1,500 in 2014, which is realistic. If you bought Bitcoin around $300, $400, that would have happened. Kind of really, really silly to see Dave also lying through teeth, basically acting like he has never heard of Bitcoin before. If you didn't watch that, you should. I mean, I did a reaction video to that. It's a good one. It's a good one. Also, this morning I published one of Michael Saylor. Now, some of you guys probably have seen this this interview with CNBC, but to me, it seems like Michael Saylor basically confirmed that he had a conversation with Elon Musk about buying Bitcoin. Right? I do believe. Ever since I covered that about 3 days ago. It seems I was gonna say a week, but it was only 3 days ago. Ever since the two kind of talked over Twitter, I do believe that they're gonna have a phone conversation, and I think Michael Saylor just admitted that they did. So I still think that that's coming. I think that Tesla is going to announce, or Elon's going to announce, that he put a small portion of Tesla's cash reserve in Bitcoin. And when that gets announced, it'll be enormous for Bitcoin. It'll be enormous. Bitcoin will probably pump up 20, 30% in a single day. And others will start following. They're going to look at Tesla and they're like, okay, if Tesla's doing it, we should do it too. And all these other companies that Michael has talked about, like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, they have so much cash on hand. They have to do something with it, and they don't know what to do with it. And they can't be seen buying gold because they're tech companies. They're supposed to be high flying. They're supposed to be innovative, right? So that's why these companies don't buy gold. It'll be silly to hear Apple buying gold with their reserve currency, right? But it would not be silly to hear Apple buying Bitcoin because they also have Apple Pay. It makes total sense, right? So I do think Tesla is going to announce, and after Tesla announces, everyone else will follow suit, and it's just going to be enormous. And that's coming. That's coming. So in case you didn't watch that video too, make sure you do so. All right, guys. I think I'm going to let you guys go. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. Again, I've been doing a lot more reaction videos because I think they're fun, and there's a lot more media attention now on Bitcoin. Like I predicted, right? After Bitcoin goes above $20, and everyone's going to be talking about it. And CNBC and Bloomberg and everyone just keeps talking about Bitcoin, right? So I'm gonna do more of these reaction videos, but you know, I started doing these live, so hopefully you guys enjoy these live ones. But yeah, Kevin O'Leary, another Bitcoin pretender, because I do think he's not actually a Bitcoin bear, but he's brought on to be and act like a Bitcoin bear, right? So, so you guys decide. You guys decide if it's true or not. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you are new, welcome. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. For the rest of you guys, smash up the like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check out my Patreon page if you want to support me and get some exclusive content. If you are brand new to Bitcoin, you want a crash course, check out my Teachable page. And of course, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. All right, so have a good Christmas Eve. Have a good Christmas. Most likely, I'm not going to be streaming tomorrow, but I may put out a video in the morning or in the afternoon. So still, stay tuned for that. All right, take care, guys.